What is up, hotties? Welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Bladen Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponauer and Theo Ash. We have a big episode and a long episode for you guys. We're going to talk about the NBA playoffs, talk about the Wednesday play-in games that happened. Rest in peace to Matt's Hornets. We're going to talk about the play-in games to come, Friday's games, and of course talk about the playoff games that are already set. Derek Carr's contract, we have to talk about that. And then Baker Mayfield went on a podcast, gave a bit of a rant. I have a bit of a retaliation for you, Baker. So we have a lot to get into. But before that, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. I was at a concert last night. The first one I've been to since COVID ended. I was at a Phoebe Bridgers show, which is kind of the sad indie girl demographic is what I would say she appeals to. But, you know, I guess I'm one of those. But I actually got recognized there through a mask. I was wearing a mask and I still got recognized, which just shows how to the degree that I've made it. And I've been recognized a couple times, but that was definitely the place where I least expected it. But I think it really is a testament to the niche that we've kind of settled into here, the like sad indie football fan. We make content for people that no one else is making content for, really. And
100,000 followers on TikTok, and it's just a bunch of sad football
It's just a bunch
fans.
of sad indie artists. What? Okay, we're a bunch of Lana Del Rey boys, right? That's our. That's what
Facts. Lana slaps.
That's what we listened to in LA the last time we were there. But yeah, no, I thought it was a good concert, a good show. And I was glad to be recognized, giving me a little bit of a ego boost in a crowd of a bunch of people who definitely thought they were the main characters. So I had to really separate myself somehow. So that was one way to do it.
Fair enough. Matt, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be here.
Are you sure? I'm checking in, you know?
Yeah, they lost, but you never expected them to do well.
You'd pick them to win that game. I remember it happening.
Yeah. The day of. I'll at least get excited on the day. I'll be a good fan. I can do that much, but
I remember saying, I think the Hornets are going to win. And I said, no, you don't. There's no way you actually think that. And you put your foot down and you're like, yes, I do. I do think they're going to win. You were very adamant about this.
I did.
He thought they were going to win, but I think he's a more durable fan than I am.
As the philosopher Jagger once said, you can't always get what you want, So you went on the walk in the rain. I thought that was one of the more funny, maybe your funniest tweet ever, honestly. I don't know if you've ever had anything funnier than that. No, but a very moody picture that you posted after.
I thought it was funny because I said walking in the rain right now.
Yeah.
And it's like,
everyone thought you were joking.
not serious. But then I posted the picture. It was pouring. I mean, it was like pouring rain outside, and I thought it was.
Did you actually walk any farther than that, or did you just go out, take the picture, and go back in?
I walked out. Like I did. I was soaked. Like I had to change clothes, if that makes you feel better. But like, no, I did not actually legitimately take a 20-minute walk in the rain. There were tornado warnings. And the Hornets loss was bad, but it wasn't that bad.
That would have been a great photo op if you were like a video of you walking and like the trees were like blowing down behind you and things are like flying all around. It would have been one of the best videos. So I think next time there's a tornado warning, get out there.
Next time there's a tornado,
get out there and
I'll do my best.
Get out there and make some content.
We'll hire a videographer.
We'll follow you around in the
really
tornado.
high quality shot of that, and then we'll put Tachyon Airplane in the background.
Perfect.
But just a reminder, everyone, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We got Tax Day coming up. I have Battle of the Bands. Those are two events that are worthy enough of subscribing to the YouTube channel. I was talking earlier. I want to try for Battle of the Bands, doing a solo with my guitar behind my head.
Have you ever tried that once?
And
have you ever tried
I've done it practicing. I've played riffs just in my room behind my head before, but I've never on stage mid performance tried to like throw it behind my head and play. And that's when I'm going to have to like practice to see if I can actually.
I would talk to your bandmates about that and not us. If you screw that up, you'll look like the biggest idiot of all time. So I just want to say.
But if I pull it off,
if you
I'm
pull
good
it
at the
off, you would be the risk reward there. I would just let them know what your plan is, so you don't whip it out. And
we're supposed to practice again tonight, so we'll see.
Work it out there if you can. When is it? When is the Battle of the Bands?
Tomorrow night.
Oh yeah, don't do it. Oh boy, yeah. I mean, maybe. I guess if you've done it alone before, I don't know. I would say the risk reward there, learning a skill like that in a night, is a little bit dicey. But maybe I'm just a hater on you. Maybe I'm just not a believer.
Maybe you are just a hater. I have to do it now out of spite.
All right.
But let's talk about
Baker's going to show up and boo you if you get it wrong.
Going to show. We're going to get into that later, man. I have something to say about Baker. But let's talk about some basketball. Matt's Hornets lost last night. Again, rest in peace to the Charlotte Hornets. But
they're getting a little better. They lost by 40 2 years ago or last year, and they only
lost by more. I think they lost by more than they did.
So they're getting better. There's improvement.
In only 4 years, they'll win a play-in game.
They lost by more points this time than they did last time.
Oh, did they? Oh,
yeah. They lost. I think maybe they lost 144 to 117, and then they lost 132 to 103, so they lost by a few more points. I think I could be wrong.
Well, Matt, it was your Hornets that lost last night, so we'll open the floor to you. What went wrong for the team last night?
I mean, it's like they shot bad, and their defense sucks, and they looked out of focus in half court. And I think that's the thing that really bothers me. It's like, okay, the defense is bad. And it's not just the center position. The defense is just bad. They don't have enough good players on defense. But we know that.
Yes.
It's the looking like they aren't prepared in half-court offense that bothers me.
Yes.
They seemed out of sync. They seemed like they couldn't get anything going. There's sometimes on a fast break they'd have a one-on-one because this is their big thing, is that they want to go as fast as possible. And then the second you get to the playoffs, like, that is not a real strategy. Pushing the pace, not a real, that's not enough. That can't just be the identity of the team, and we're not going to worry about anything else. Because there'd be sometimes on a fast break, and this happens every single Hornets game, where it's like, it's a one-on-one, and it's a bad matchup on a one-on-one fast break, but they're taking the shot anyway because bad shot selection is just part of the team identity. And I'm not saying that was the entire thing. It also was. It's just like, dude, nothing was falling. And Clint Capella got, some work in because we don't have good interior defense. But like, man.
Yeah, I mean, you could kind of tell it was over when Trae Young started 1 for 8 and they still grew the lead to double digits. It was just like, man, once Trae kind of heats up here, what can you do? I think it ended with 6 Hawks with double-digit points. So it's just like they were able to take away Trae at the beginning of the game, but still, like, the one-on-ones everywhere else, just no one was a plus defender, and no one has been for the Hornets for a while. And, shout out the Hawks, too. They're clicking right now. And I think if we talk about predictions versus the Cavs are getting Jarrett Allen. It sounds like back for the next game. The Cavs have an extra day of rest on the Hawks. So I definitely think the Cavs could win that game. But it's just tough to bet on a team that's kind of on a downward trend versus a team that's really kind of growing into their potential right now in the Atlanta Hawks and coming off a near 30-point win. So that's just kind of where my head's at regarding this Hawks team, is they've just got too many scores everywhere for some of these other play-in teams to deal with, especially maybe the Cavs can deal with that because they do have a really good defense when Allen's been in there. But that, again, is more, not so much perimeter, it's more interior with Mobley and Allen. So I don't even know how much, and it's an injured Allen at that. So right. I don't know how much the Cavs are going to really be able to stop them, which is with all the momentum, I guess, that the Hawks have going into this, as much as I hate to say.
And Trae Young, I do think is, we can talk about, they do have a lot of scores on the Hawks, but I didn't get to watch the Hornet Talks game just because I was at guitar club. I was doing a thing. I was busy, and I saw this highlight immediately after of Trae Young like getting basically triple teamed. Looks like he's going to go up for like a floater shot, and then all of a sudden, like the ball is not in his hands and it's in another Atlanta Hawks player's hands, and I'm like, how the hell did he make that pass? It just like the trickery that he can pull out sometimes, like even when things look like they're just disastrous.
Yeah, even when he wasn't shooting well at the beginning of that game, he was still a good creator, and he was still getting the other Hawks involved. And again, those other Hawks were able to exploit the Charlotte defense very easily.
Oh, it's because the Hornets' defensive game plan was like, well, we're going to double team Trae Young because we don't have anyone who can honestly guard him at all. And I get it's Trae Young, so it's like,
yeah,
right.
Maybe that's every team, but us especially. So we have to double team him, and then he has to pass someone else, and we'll make someone else beat us. Well, that's going to work. Wide open NBA players will beat you. They will win, and they scored 130 points. And I don't know how much I blame that on Borrego or how much I blame that on just weak personnel. But a lot of it, I'm not as down on the Hornets long term because of this game, but it definitely is eye-opening with like the role players need, like if LaMelo isn't going to be a great defender and Miles Bridges and Terry Rozier, because those are our main guys, if they're not going to be great defenders, okay, I think you can live with that. But then your bench players can't be Montrezl Harrell and Isaiah Thomas.
Right.
You know, you have to have the correct supporting cast. And I understand why we have those guys. I understand like this is not a complete team. We're still very much in rebuild mode. And we could have, 2 rookies who haven't played at all coming in next year and then 2 more, first round draft picks. So long term, the Hornets aren't bad, but
yeah, it's just glaring just how few plus defenders they have. I mean, you need at least, I don't know how many you need, probably 5, 6 to be an NBA finals team, and they have 0. So it's just they've got to add, or maybe not even add. Their players that they already have need to grow. And it's just a lot of growing needs to get done. And it's been clear 2 straight years now. So, Matt, how are you feeling about Hawks Cavs moving on? Who's getting that 8th seed? I'm leaning Hawks, as I already said. How are you feeling it?
I'll lean Hawks as well. It does make me feel a little bit better about the Hornets losing if Jared Allen's going to be back for the Cavs, because then we wouldn't have won that game anyway. But I would agree. I think the Hawks are trending in the right direction. And Jared Allen's a big deal. And like, man, the Cavs kind of did play the Nets close.
Yeah, they ended up doing that.
But my gut tells me that Allen is maybe going to be playing a little bit more injured because this is an elimination game now. So maybe he won't be 100%. So I'll cautiously say Hawks.
Yeah, I would agree. And that one could go either way. I'm not confident on and that's the nature of the play-in games, I guess, is they're all pretty even matchups. And then on the other side, or go ahead, Matt.
Oh, yeah. I mean, 100%. It's like if Karis LeVert decides to have 30 points, what are we talking about? And I guess you can say that I think despite bad shooting, like kind of not that great of a performance from the Cavs, they were close with the Nets, but again,
it was a weird close game though. Like it didn't feel like it should be close. And then all of a sudden it was, because LeVert had a bad game. So I guess maybe you could say, oh, that bodes well for them, because if they play a game well, they would have easily won. But I don't know. I just don't like again, a downward slide versus a big upward trend, interior defense versus, kind of more perimeter shooting. I'm taking the Hawks a little bit there. So Bladen, are you going to take the Cavs? These are like your 2 favorite teams to pick here. So I'm wondering where your
three favorite NBA teams right here. The only thing we're missing is De'Aaron Fox and the Sacramento Kings.
Which Trae Young jersey did you get, Bladen?
Oh, I haven't bought it yet, but I'm going to go.
Okay.
I'll buy it right now. I'm buying the black one. I'll buy it right now.
You were like, if they win, I'm buying a Trae Young jersey.
No.
I hope they beat the Hornets.
He would have never done it if you didn't bring it up.
He would have never done it. This is just because he's getting called out. He was just trolling me, man.
I was literally
didn't even mean it seriously.
It's in my cart. Man.
The other game was Pelicans Spurs.
I am leaning Hawks, by the way.
Okay. Pelicans Spurs in what could be Greg Popovich, his last game. It wouldn't surprise me. It would be kind of a quiet exit, but maybe a fitting one. Obviously, didn't go out on top if that is the end, but a Spurs team that you wouldn't expect to be there, and they had a nice 16-1 run at some point to close that game to make it close on a game where they had a big talent gap. Really well coached Spurs team, and one that's definitely overperforming. So definitely something Pop can be proud of if it is his last time. I just want to maybe pose that as a scenario, but it's not really a huge deal in terms of what happened last night. I love the Pelicans. I really am tempted to pick them against the Clippers. I swear, is the closest thing to KD we have that isn't KD. I mean, the dunk that he had last night, the mid-ranger that he has, the length that he has, obviously not as good as KD is for defensive reasons and just overall 3-point reasons and just overall shot creating. But I do think there is a lot of KD in his game. McCollum went off last night. I love those two as scoring options. I think they can get you a bucket when you need one. And they definitely needed one once the Spurs closed that gap. So I like them, but I don't know if I like them enough to pick them against the Clippers.
I want it to happen, so I'll pick it. That's what I did with the Hornets now against my best judgment, and I'll do it again. Pelicans I don't know, dude. I thought Norman Powell was really balling out against the Timberwolves. That was such a big get for him. Right. I know we've probably brought that up a few times, but I can't believe they got him for as little as they did. And even not this year when Kawhi comes back, and
Covington just dropped 40 the other night, and there's Trey Mann there. It's just a lot of depth. And
they got a lot of guys.
They got a lot of guys, and I just don't know if the Pelicans have that depth. And the Pelicans have been really good post All-Star break, and they've been better than the Clippers post All-Star break. But it wasn't that long ago that Paul George came back, and if he had been healthy the entire time, that could be a different story. Look, you can put Herb Jones on Paul George and make him look ordinary. I think that is not out of the realm of possibility. Herb Jones has been all defensive team level since really cracking this starting lineup. He's been amazing. Played in bought his Trae Young jersey. So there's all that. There's all that. And I guess you could say where are the Pelicans that are a little bit weak on the interior of the defense with Haynes and Valanciunas, I would say are not the most sturdy big men in the paint, but the Clippers don't really have the guys to really exploit that. So I guess maybe you could say that's where the Pelicans can kind of make a push if the Clippers have a bad shooting game. They don't like to shoot within 10 feet. The Clippers have the second fewest shots within 10 feet of the basket of anyone in the NBA. And when you're so reliant on mid-rangers and 3-point shots, it just takes one bad shooting night. And when you can put
good perimeter defenders are even more valuable, and Herb Jones is a good perimeter defender.
The thing is, so is Rocco, and so is Paul George, and so is some of the guys the Clippers have got. So I just think the Clippers are a little deeper, and I'm going to pick them. But I do think the Pelicans also.
Give me the Pelicans.
That's how you're trying to be.
Okay,
I'm afraid.
Different.
I don't think it's a bad pick, man, and I'm changing my mind because originally I had the Pelicans and the T-Wolves coming out.
Don't hop on the bandwagon.
Man, Powell is what scares me. Powell has looked so good recently that off the bench, I think that they've got more guys. And I think in those minutes where the stars maybe aren't out there, that the Clippers can really gain ground. That the Pelicans are not great defensively. Herb Jones is good, but the other four out there, are they going to be real plus defender? I don't know. It's tough, but I don't know. It could really go either way. It could really go either way because it's outside of Paul George, are any of the Clippers really, really elite scorers? Are they going to be really able to take advantage? So I don't know.
I'll even go one step further with my Hornets propaganda. Not only are they going to get the pick, because if the Pelicans win, the Hornets get a first-round draft pick out of it. There's a first-round draft pick just straight up on the line, not even pushed to the future, just on the line in this game.
Okay.
Not only will it be a Pelicans win, Devontae Graham 30-piece was the reason why we even have a chance at this first-round draft pick to bring it home.
Fair.
10 for 10 from 3.
10 for 10.
I guess I maybe am discounting the Pelicans.
10 for 10 from 3.
No,
I will say this. I will say this about the Pelicans. Shred the Clippers when it comes to points in paint and second chance points.
Yes. The paint is definitely an interesting matchup here because the Clippers just don't have a big emphasis on it against, and the Pelicans, Valanciunas is one of the best scoring big men in basketball. And Jackson Hayes, I checked his offensive rating. It's like 132. So that's definitely, I think, kind of the X factor in this game is like, will the Pelicans be able to have kind of that baseline of being able to score in the paint, and or the Clippers maybe going to pass that up for more mid-range stuff, and that can kind of come and go. And we saw it in the T-Wolves game, like they just kind of went on a drought and they blew a little bit of a lead, and it can happen at any time in these one-offs. So we'll see how it goes. But that's how I'm feeling about both of them. I'm going to take the favorites, I guess, in the Clippers and the Hawks, which is what I picked in all the playing games before as well. And I think
I'm gonna roll with the Hawks. So. Matt, I think I'm gonna rock with you and take the Pelicans. Like no cap. Like the more I look at it, the more I'm like.
I can see it, man. I really can. I just think the bench is going to make a little bit of the difference here. I think the starting lineups are comparable for sure, but I think the bench of the Clippers is a little deeper. That's just my take.
Fair enough. Playoffs, though. How are we feeling about the playoffs? We got all the games locked. Good. We got all the games locked up except for the 1 and 8 seeds. So if you want to start in the East and just go 2-7, 3-6?
Yeah, let's start in the East.
Right. Start in the
2-7.
East.
You got Boston and Brooklyn.
I'm going Brooklyn. I'm putting my foot down. I am going Brooklyn. I said Boston like 2 days ago or maybe literally yesterday, but I'm going with Brooklyn. So it's going to come down to just a shot making competition, right? With these teams are like, I guess Boston's defense is so much better, but like I don't know if I want to bet against Kevin Durant. I'm talking myself in and out of this.
In real time, because like he's talking himself in and out.
I'm telling you.
Ben Simmons potentially being back in the 5th or 6th game of this series is a big deal. It's a big deal. Someone who you can put on Tatum, I think. I mean, you feel confident putting a healthy Ben Simmons on damn near anybody since about how versatile he is. So that could be a big swing if he comes back in a game 5 potentially. I'm going Celtics. I was really impressed with the way the Nets played in that playing game. I was really impressed with the way Claxton played, denying Markkanen, who had a horrible game. Garland was driving it to the basket early in that game, and he was making some tough shots, but they were always making it close. Claxton was making a lot of good defensive plays in that play-in game, and they need that. They can't get a stop. That's what you've heard about the Nets the whole time. And the fact that they were getting some nice stops from him in the interior is really a big piece. And with Simmons coming back, they could play some nice defense.
No Robert Williams is
no Robert Williams. No Robert Williams.
He's going to be out the whole series. I'm pretty sure
he's going to be out the whole series. But you still got Marcus Smart. You still got Jaylen Brown. You still got Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
The big men in you've got Drummond, but as far as the interior defense goes, it's there's not this big dude who's going to feast in the paint on Brooklyn. So I feel like the Celtics still have the defenders that you want against a Brooklyn team like this. And they've still got the shot creators. I mean, they've been the hottest team in basketball by far since the All-Star break. We talk about teams clicking on all cylinders. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough, but I think that they can still squeak past the Brooklyn Nets because I think that they can overcome Robert Williams' injury. I still think and we talk about the Cavs, right? They didn't actually get blown out by the Nets. They made it close. They didn't get blown out by the Nets in a game where Kyrie played damn near perfect, in a game where KD played damn near perfect, and they still did not really blow out this Cavs team that's, as we've said, kind of on a downward trajectory here. So we can bet on KD and Kyrie not playing quite that good, because it's really difficult for anyone, even of a player of their caliber, to play that good. So I'm projecting, them not lighting it up to the extent they did in that playoff game. And if they don't, I think the Celtics can win those games where they don't play perfectly. And the two of them not playing perfectly, I think, can happen 4 out of 7 times, I guess. So I'm leaning the Celtics, but I think that series goes the distance to 6 or 7.
They're very even teams, I think, for the most part.
It's a tough matchup for a 2 seed. This is one of the harder 7 seeds you'll ever face.
Stats, like, you go to NBA.com, you like the team comparison. Most of the time, certain things are skewed one way heavier the other. Their charts are literal mirrors.
Yeah, they're similar teams. The 2 shot creators and yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't even know who to pick on that.
I guess what you're deciding between is like the advantage Brooklyn has is I think their 2 shot creators are better.
Yeah.
Yes. I think they're like at shot creating, they're better, right? Kyrie and Kevin Durant have done this for a really long time. But on the other hand, Brooklyn has better defense, just better defenders. So would you rather
Boston
have the
Boston?
Boston. So would you rather have the better defenders or would you rather have the better shot creators? And the problem is, like, I guess the way that you could look at it is Boston has great shot creators and great defense. Brooklyn has some of the Hall of Fame shot creators and average defense, but then they might get the best perimeter defender in the game midway through the series. Like,
I've seen some people have the take, because it's such a difficult matchup for the Celtics, that they should have maybe tanked a little bit and just to duck this matchup in the first round. But I think that's a bunch of bullshit, really. To like, once you lost like Robert Williams, you have to figure out how to play without him. And so you have to keep trying. Like, you can't pack it up. And the first time you're really trying to win a game without him is in the playoffs, right? That's a bad strategy. So you really had to figure out how to gel. And so you had to kind of turn it up even more once he went out to end the season. Plus, you don't even know if the Nets are getting out of the play. Like, they might be the 8 seed. They might be the 7 seed. You don't know where they're going to end up. So it would suck if you were to purposely like lose some games and then you see them anyway when they're the 7 seed or the 8, or they're the 8 seed. So I don't know. It's, I guess they couldn't have been the 6 seed because they were in the play-ins, but I don't know. I feel like that's just a bad move to end the year on a losing streak. That's bad karma. That's bad juju. Especially when you're trying to learn how to play without one of your best players. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's just a load of.
It's a tough series to call. I'll stick with Boston, I guess. I want to pick Brooklyn.
No, you won't. You are going to pick the Nets. Don't care.
Now I'm going to pick Boston despite you. Yep.
Fuck. I'm going to take Brooklyn despite you. No.
Okay.
I'm taking Boston.
No, you already said it. I'm afraid.
You're taking Brooklyn. You said you're taking Brooklyn. Plus, they could win. Think of how smart you'll feel when they win. Now you're going to feel like an idiot. All right. Well, I'm taking the Celtics in 6 or 7. I guess you're also taking the Celtics in 6 or 7, but you're really going to take I'm overriding that. You're taking the Nets in 7.
He's taking the Nets.
You can't change your mind.
All right.
I don't care. You're taking the Nets in 7. You will, and it will hit, because changing your mind is always a bad idea. Like, just like the Pelicans are going to win tonight because I changed my mind.
Me picking, regardless, now I'm changing my mind. Because I picked both teams, because I can't ever decide on matchups like this. But this one is particularly garbage. I guess Boston, but like, because we're betting on a Boston team that has a great defense but has lost one of its best defenders, and a Brooklyn team that doesn't have a great defense but might just randomly get the best perimeter defender in the league who has played 0 games for them.
Right. So even that is like, is he going to be the best perimeter defender in the league when he comes back? So who knows what that's, and if he's going to come back at all. I'm going Celtics. There's a lot of unknowns here. It's a really even series and will definitely be one of the more fascinating ones to watch in the first round.
Last time,
it's also like playoff experience also matters. So that's the Nets have a huge edge there.
I remember being like, a big like playoff team. They got throttled maybe not the last time, but the last time I remember like watching a Celtics playoff game.
In the bubble, they had a really, really great series against Nick Nurse and the Toronto Raptors that I believe.
Okay, I was referring to when
prevailed
LeBron put them in a chokehold. And
that was like many years ago.
Anyway,
that was like no one on the team then is on the team now. But
I don't know. The Celtics, I think they're due was my point.
I like that. You make a good point. I think I might have to sign. I gotta say Celtics, man.
They're due.
They are see, it's like I'll make like a tweet or something on the Stay Hot account because I've been so back and forth before all of these series start of my actual predictions. But this is probably the only one I'm going to be so unsure about.
Well, the next one is the Bulls and the Bucks, which I think we can pretty comfortably kick our feet back and sleep on the Chicago Bulls because they have not had a win against a good team.
Take the Bulls
all year. Yeah. No, I'll go Bucks. The question is, do you think DeRozan gets him one? And I honestly think, like, no. I think Bucks in 4. I think I may have said 5 yesterday, but I've thought about it. DeRozan is awesome, but like if you have, I guess Pat Williams is back now, but I don't know if that's enough to stop Giannis. So unless their interior defense is going to be extremely improved by
Vooch is fried chicken in this series.
It's not good. And I guess,
and even past this year, I mean, they have not been good at the Bucks. Like they're bad against every good team, and they're like specifically bad against the Bucks. I just don't see. And you can put the perimeter defense of the Bucks. Obviously, Giannis is someone who is so athletic that he can guard anywhere at any time. It seems like, but you still got Holiday there. That's going to make things life rough. And
Middleton, yeah,
it's just a brutal draw.
4.
I think
maybe DeRozan goes like and carries him to 1, and if he does, more power to him. God bless him. I want to see him at least have a good 4-5 game stretch here, so he doesn't have to hear it. But like, it's just not a good matchup for Chicago. I'm afraid. Next year, get healthy, run it back. There's some things they can do, but this is not the matchup. This is not the year. They're not the
due,
health.
and that's okay.
Very tough.
Some teams are just not due.
Well, that takes us to one of probably the second most fascinating one here, which is the 4 seed Sixers versus the 5 seed Raptors, which is a matchup where it's like, this is the Bill Belichick versus Mike McCarthy coaching matchup. I think that's my Doc Rivers NFL comp, is a guy who got a ring in about 2010 or so, 2008 in his case, and has done nothing but choke since. That's Mike McCarthy right there. He has been insistent on playing DeAndre Jordan minutes that he should not be playing. Nick Nurse has done a really good job on Embiid these past 2 years. I think that Embiid shoots like 39% against the Raptors, which is surprising considering the Raptors just don't really have any really big men. Like their tallest player is not that tall. I think it's Siakam at like 6'9".
It comes
they've
down
been able to double him, and go ahead, Matt.
Oh, it just comes down to, there's no good reason why the 76ers shouldn't beat this Raptors team. They're too talented to not win, and that's what makes me so nervous. It's like, it's such a tough one. I'm not going to be able to get myself to pick the Raptors. I don't have the guts to, I just can't do it. The 76ers could very well flame out early in the playoffs, but at the end of the day, I do believe that Embiid and Harden just overcome whatever needs to be overcome, unless they really, really, really are playing for fouls and not getting the whistle. But I don't think they're going to do that. There is a lot of talent on that 76ers team, more so than I think Doc can even
mess up,
hold back.
Yeah, Maxey too, but it just seems, I've talked to myself into this because I don't want to be the biggest 76ers hater, because I do understand the talent that they have, and I understand that the past doesn't necessarily define the future when it comes to playoff success. Again, a lot of players who get slandered for their playoff performances. I mean, again, I've said this before on this pod, and like last year it happened with Paul George, Giannis, and Chris Paul. Like all those guys really turned it on in the playoffs when they were kind of written off before as guys who couldn't quite take a team all the way there. And only Giannis did, but the rest of them had great playoff performances. I don't care what anybody says. So, but man, it just is so many things just have ended up working against the 76ers. Like Thibault not being able to play in Canada. You know, the coaching mismatch, the fact that you look at it and you squint and you're like, man, Embiid's numbers against these Raptors have not been that good. The fact that Harden is coming in super duper cold. It's just so many things where it's like, man, this is just primed for the Sixers to blow it. It's primed for the Sixers to blow it. It is. And yes, they have the talent to beat them, and they should beat them, and they should be expected to beat them, and they should be the favorite. But fuck it. You know, I'm taking the Raptors. I think that there's just too many ingredients for a blown Sixers L here, a big Sixers L here, and I'm going to predict the Sixers L here, even though I still like the talent that they've got. And again, the East is very close, and, you know, the Sixers could lose right here. They could make it to the finals. I don't think that's particularly likely, but it's not like they're the Bulls, where I just think they have no shot of making it a deep run here. But I'm going to take the Raptors in 7. That's what I'm going to say. I think that go ahead.
One guy that I do trust to not blow it on the 76ers is James Harden. I don't care that he's cold.
That's not the person you should say that about.
That is the one guy that I do trust.
A known playoff choker on the coldest stretch of his life.
I will always put my faith in the beard. Always.
And he will have never have rewarded you if you have done that in the past.
I know he's perceived as a playoff choker.
It's deserved, man.
I don't know if it is.
It is deserved.
I feel like every time James Harden gets put in this position where it's like, my entire team has collapsed. Like he will literally be by himself.
That is true.
And he'll be like, I have to win like an elimination game, or I have to win 2 games with nobody.
It is true that those Rockets teams that he played on, he was like, his usage rate was just out of this world.
It's not fair.
Like by the time he got to the playoffs, you could maybe say he was just kind of spent. He was kind of worn out. It's not even like I'm talking about like the 2018 or like the year where they legitimately had a shot, I thought, to go all the way when they were going against the Warriors. Right.
And then Chris Paul gets hurt.
Right.
And it's like, yeah, they had the guys, and Harden was even playing well, but it wasn't there. They never had the guys there. And then in Brooklyn, you know, no one was ever healthy altogether. I don't know. I know he has the perception of a playoff choker, and I guess it's fair because he hasn't ever really done anything. But man, if Embiid's healthy and he's not playing like literally his worst basketball ever, I will take it all damn day.
As on the one hand, the Raptors, like they're going to be very switchable. They're going to bother Embiid. You know, maybe they don't have the one guy where you're like, he matches up well with Embiid, but they have a lot of guys who are like, he can be a problem. And Harden has just been shooting terribly. And it's like, you know, you can do all this other stuff, but you have to be able to make the shots. And so those things point Raptors, but on the other hand,
Embiid,
who's the best player in this series?
Probably James Harden.
Who's the second best player in this series? Yeah, dude. It's like, and so you've got a team that always disappoints and a team that always beats expectations. But you would be going against all logic and picking against the best 2 players in the series. I will lean 76ers with my idea being that not that Embiid will get it done if he needs to get it done. I'm going to trust Embiid, even though he hasn't done that against the Raptors. I'm going to put my faith at the end of the day, and I think Joel will figure it out.
And Harden can only shoot. You're right about that.
You would think.
And you've also got Maxey. You do have Thibault for some of it. I mean, it's not like he's out the entire time. Paul Reed has been playing well lately. He's someone that you heard Doc Rivers at a press conference say, against big fives, we like DeAndre Jordan, which is stupid because DeAndre Jordan sucks. But against smaller fives, we like Paul Reed. And you would think that would indicate that we would see a lot of Paul Reed in this matchup against the Raptors, who do not have a big five. You would think that that's what that means. Although with Doc Rivers, you really never can tell. So it's not like the Sixers are super duper top heavy, as like they're not just Harden and Embiid either. So I think that it goes to 7. I'm going to say there's a few too many ingredients for a Sixers L that makes me feel like I need to pick them. I'm going to pick the underdogs, which is in a 7-game series is a little bit silly, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to say Raptors in 7. I'm going to anticipate the Sixers choke here a little bit, and yeah, that's how it goes. I think it goes 7 though, which again, and when it comes to predictions, as long as we lay out kind of the pros and cons of both teams. And I guess another con for the Raptors, if I'm talking myself out of this, is like Scotty Barnes is great. And, like they're inexperienced, I guess. There's a lot of younger guys there. And, we can kind of see these younger teams get punched in the mouth in the playoffs a little bit. And, you see sometimes the more experienced teams prevail, even if there is, maybe a little bit of a talent gap, or a little bit of not even a talent gap in this case. They're more talented and more experienced.
More talented and more experienced. So what do you do? Yeah. I don't know. A lot of tough picks here, but you know what isn't a tough pick? You have an idea. You should know. It's PrizePicks.
PrizePicks.
PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. I love this. I know you guys will too. PrizePicks offers more NBA props than any other DFS operator and offers every player and stat category you could possibly think of. You could pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry, and it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sport entries. So, for example, you can take the over on Jokic, you can take the under on Mike Trout in the same entry. Users that deposit and use our promo code will receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100. Just be sure to use promo code STAYHOT. Again, that is code STAYHOT. Don't hesitate. Check out prizepicks.com. Again, use the code STAYHOT, or you can go to the App Store and download the app today. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. Let's hit the West real quick. We are running really long on time, but we hate our editors. This has been known.
So in the West, in the West, the 2 seed versus 7, we got the much anticipated for a while now, Grizzlies T-Wolves.
Yes.
Grizzlies Timberwolves. I think the Timberwolves have done a really good job against the Grizzlies. I think I'm still going to take the Grizzlies. They play very tough as a team. Their defense is very good. I feel like they have a pretty solid group to bother Karl Anthony Towns. Although I do think he'll play better than he did in the Clippers series, because I think the Clippers game, I mean, maybe if the Grizzlies emulate what the Clippers did against Cat against him, and the Timberwolves don't adjust, then yeah, it could be bad. But I also do think the Timberwolves are going to have a chance to they were not doing a good job of getting Karl Anthony Towns involved in other ways. They were kind of just like, here's a mismatch, we're going to pass to you. Oh, they double you. And then a lot of the times, I feel like Timberwolves didn't give him maybe the help that he needed. Sometimes it'd be like, hey, there's 3 guys on Karl Anthony Towns.
Right.
Somebody cut in, If you're on the weak side up there in the corner, well, Cat can't get it to you, but you can cut in and make it easier for him or something. So if they can fix up some of that stuff, it'll be a tough series. I trust Ja Morant. The Grizzlies have a lot of guys who I trust to get it done. Having a volume of dudes where you're like, that guy could score 25 points tonight. is a big deal. And they have a very good defense with very good defend. It's not like, they have defenders who I feel like will translate to playoff defense. So I'll go with the Grizzlies in 6.
I just don't trust Cat. I mean, after what we saw against the Clippers, it's tough for me to imagine that he's going to just eat against the Grizzlies, right? And it's just tough to imagine that. Steven Adams and JJJ, they are two guys, like, you put those guys in the post, one help, one on Cat. It's going to be tough for him to drive. He doesn't really love to drive anyway. Maybe he does. I don't know. I just don't trust Cat against those two, the interior defense there. As I said kind of earlier, is I've been a big D'Lo fan throughout throughout the season, and I really like the way that he's kind of matured as a player, from snitching on his teammate to being the team leader here, and just in general the way he's able to facilitate and play defense and do all these things that you want a guard to be able to do. And I thought that showed up in the Clippers game in a couple different ways. I thought it was interesting to hear Ty Lue say, like, we felt we could take away Cat. D'Lo scared us the most. Like, we heard that multiple times from guys on the Clippers, is D'Lo scared us the most. And I think that's a valid thing to fear, honestly. I think D'Lo is the best guy that they might have. I really like him. And just kind of as a vocal leader as well, I think that was really well exemplified by Patrick Beverley after the game, just going crazy. And I don't necessarily blame him for that, because they just beat their former teams to go into the playoffs. It's one of the bigger wins in Timberwolves history, if we're being honest. So I don't necessarily think it's like horrible that he was just acting like they won the NBA finals, but it was a funny thing for D'Lo to be like, we're supposed to be here. We expected this, and we're just on to the next. And then Patrick Beverley is acting like this is the greatest day of his entire life, or ever will be. And
you got the yin and the yang.
And then Cat fouled out in that game just with some idiotic fouls that just did not need to happen, which were dumb. So Cat was kind of being dumb in that game. Beverley, I wouldn't say he was being immature, but he was freaking out. And then D'Lo was just kind of like the steady presence. So he's the one where I think he's kind of the X factor for the T-Wolves in this playoffs, where if he can be dropping high 20s a night like you did in that playing game if he can be a good defender, if he can really carry the load, I think he's going to be the one who needs to do that more than Cat. Honestly, he's, I think, the one who scares you more, just like Ty Lue said. And I like him a lot, but I don't think that he can beat, like, the Grizzlies just have the best player on the floor in John Morant, in my opinion.
I was about to say,
and more depth.
Does having D'Angelo Russell even, like, it matters, but like,
yeah, it's tough for me to pick against the Grizzlies when they have more depth and the best, more like high-end talent, or maybe not more high-end talent, because it's kind of one guy versus three in terms of like what you would consider like superstars or big stars. But they do have the best player on the court, and they have more depth. I'm going Grizzlies in 5 or 6 here.
That's probably where I would lean. I don't know. I don't really have anything. I look at John Morant and I'm like, yeah, that dude's him.
You're not wrong. And the record they have even without him is ridiculous, and that speaks to how well they're coached and their depth.
What is their record without him?
20-4, something like that. Their record is better without him. Better without him than with him. So it speaks to their depth. And when he's in, it just makes him that much more dangerous. Obviously, you'd rather have him in than out, even if whatever the record is. Right. So Fair enough. That's how I'm feeling.
All right.
As far as if you want to go to Warriors Nuggets, Curry is tracking to play game 1. I think the Warriors will win this series unless Curry is like horribly, horribly hurt. The Warriors, I think, will win this series. I do think the Nuggets will get a couple. I do think maybe not a couple. I think Jokic at least makes it a gentleman's sweep. I do think, he's going to have a game where he can go and get his work. I know he didn't against the Suns last year, but I'm not going to completely write them off from even getting one, but it is going to be very tough. I feel like there's not a ton to talk about with this series. The Warriors have been a little spotty, but they've just got a lot more gas in the tank than a Nuggets team that's basically like Jokic every single possession, and that'll eventually really start to wear on him, and it makes it very easy to game plan around him. And we're talking about a Warriors team that, like, maybe they don't have the one guy who matches up against Jokic, but they do have Draymond and Wiggins, and they've got some guys who can defend. So I'll say strongly the Warriors will win this series, but Jokic always always overperforms in the playoffs. He always beats expectations.
Yeah.
He's so good.
Even if Curry wasn't tracking to play much in this series, I mean, the load that Jokic has taken on, especially this year, like for the whole time, has been he's just crazy.
He's got to be gassed.
And for him to like turn it on to the extent that he needs to and maybe even take it to another level, I mean, maybe he can do it because he's incredible, but I just don't know if I see that happening. The Warriors...
We just talked about Harden, who had like the same problem with the Rockets.
Right. Poole is... like the growth that he showed this year has been really impressive, and he's a bona fide like high level player for them. Wiggins was an all-star starter. Kuminga's been a nice rookie this year. They've got Clay, who's been more consistent lately. They've got Curry coming back. They've got Draymond. The Warriors are really, really dangerous, man. And the depth, like guys I didn't really anticipate taking steps have taken steps this year. So if they can get Curry playing like Curry was early this year. I know he's been in a little bit of a slump, or not even so much a slump, just maybe less than you'd expect from Curry recently. But if they can get like high level Curry at any point in these playoffs, they might win the West. So I really like this Warriors team. I think that they've got a lot of good.
They can at least get out of this game, like even if Curry isn't playing well, just based on like his gravity. And I know that can be kind of a cop-out sometimes, but with Curry, like the way he can shoot the ball, I think it is a legitimate case where it's like, even if he's not performing, other guys are going to get their shots.
Got to be on him all the time. Yeah, I think the Warriors are really good. I think if Curry's tracking to play game one, I think they can kind of overwhelm the Nuggets and finish this up in 5. That's might be my take here. Warriors in 5.
Yeah. That's probably where you want it. Then the last one, Dallas and Utah.
I'm going Utah.
You've come around.
I'm going
nothing.
I'm going Utah. I'm going Utah. Luka isn't playing game 1.
Yeah.
Wait.
Okay. This is the same injury that Kevin Durant had when he fought to get back and then tore his Achilles. Yep. I legitimately think if you're the Mavericks, you sit Luka minimum 2 games. If you don't get one, you go into game 3, you lose, you don't play him. Don't do this to yourself. Don't go lose Luka for next season. Don't go get him injured because you want to, try to make a big comeback in a round 1 series.
Which sucks, man.
Even if he comes back, the problem is that even if he plays, it's a lower body injury. Like it's just he's not going to be 100%. I feel like if he comes back, and maybe the Mavericks have a good group and they steal one, and maybe if they can keep it close by the time like game 6 rolls around, maybe. But this is maybe. I know the Jazz have been disoriented, but
at a point it does. It would be very Jazz to lose a series to a Luka-less match. I picked the Jazz even before. I thought the Jazz had a shot in this series even before the Luka injury. Now that Luka's gone, maybe I feel less confident in the Jazz because they're just more likely to disappoint. Like the most disappointing outcome possible is what the Jazz will do. But look, Mitchell has been a great playoff performer in the past. He really has. And it is tough. I do think this is kind of the last hurrah for the Jazz here. I do. Like this iteration of the Jazz team, I think that they can all kind of know it and they all kind of feel it. And I think that maybe they have one series in them where they can really turn it on and make a run at one more chance here that they won't go out right away. Yeah, I don't know. They're very susceptible to small ball because they don't have really the perimeter defenders that you'd like to see. Jokic is obviously a great interior defender, but can't quite move like some of the other guys can on the perimeter or some other big guys can on the perimeter. And that bodes well, I think, for the Mavericks who can utilize small ball.
Gobert.
What did I say?
Jokic.
Oh, yeah. No, Gobert. The other European center. But yeah, no, Gobert is not a great perimeter defender, and the Mavs really can utilize small ball, and they're in about as good a position as any team to do that. So that is definitely something that can be exploited even without Luka. But at the end of the day, I do think like Conley and Mitchell are better than the best players that the Mavericks are going to be able to put out there without Luka. And I think they've got maybe one series left in them. I do think that they move the ball pretty well. They do have the interior defense. I do think they have the scoring. Yes, the team chemistry seems to be a little bit off or very off, but I think like it's not so bad that it's going to sabotage them against a largely Luka-less Mavericks. And I'm going to take the Jazz in 5 or 6, maybe.
Especially if the Jazz get up early in the series.
Yeah, they're going to get up early in the series, and Luka's not going to come back the same, I think, is how this goes. I think we're going to see good games from Mitchell, and I think Conley's playing, so we're good. So if you're a Jazz fan, I think you feel good beating a Luka-less. Maybe not beyond that. I'm not probably picking him beyond that, but if Luka's out for any kind of time or hobbled or injured, the Jazz are not so untalented or so dysfunctional that they're just incapable of winning that series. So that's how I feel about it.
Fair enough. Well, that's the NBA playoffs. Everything we said will come true, as it always does. There is a little bit of NFL news. Derek Carr signs a new extension, and the storyline there is basically the Raiders are making good contract decisions, I guess.
It's an overpay.
Well, is it because it's not guaranteed? No money past this first year is guaranteed. That's the thing. Is it an overpay?
I guess.
Like, okay, after this
your
year,
options are cut him. Or
yeah, it's like okay. I don't think it is an overpay. Like, okay, technically, it's like, it's a top 50, like not really a top 10 quarterback, and you're paying him what is it, like $40-some million a year, but like. Derek Carr has been a consistent top.
Carr is one of the most overrated quarterbacks in the league. I might say that right now.
He's not a consistent top 10 quarterback.
15. He's consistently like 15
for $40 million.
Okay.
Like he's a good quarterback for $40 million a year.
How many guys are there that you think want to play that are really going to want to play for your team the way Derek Carr wants to play for the Raiders?
That's the thing. Well, that's the thing, I guess, is like Carr is someone who like he went to his agent and said, I'm playing for the Raiders or I'm retiring. Like this MF loves
like that's what I'm saying.
This MF loves the Raiders. Paying him $40 million a year truly is an overpay, but the way that contract is structured, it seems like they don't actually have to pay him that, and it's guaranteed money past this year is nothing. It's $0. Look at the contract. So
it is.
I don't think
the cap hit this year is 19.
Yes,
19 and some change, whatever. And then for the next few years, it's a massive cap hit if you choose to take it on.
Yes,
right.
It could go either way. It could be a massive overpay. I don't love it, but again, it's also tough to not reward a guy after what happened to the Raiders this year, after Ruggs and after Gruden and after, Damon Arnett and all the drama that was surrounding them. He was a really good role model and leader through all of that, led them to the playoffs and loves the team. And you roll your eyes when it's like, oh, well, this dude just loves like playing for the Raiders, and you don't really make a contract based on just that. You don't. But
I think it matters.
It does matter. The human aspect of it is still there, and I don't blame them for extending him. And looking at the funny money in this deal, I think that they still can maybe trick the rules a little bit into not paying him quite as much as it initially seems.
The Devontae deal is structured kind of similarly. To the point where I look at this year, 2022 for the Raiders, and this feels like such a test run. They're like, all right, let's just see, right? Let's give Derek Carr the guy he really wants. Let's just give it to him. We'll see what happens, right? We made the playoffs last year, right? The team is mostly the same, right? We keep the defense that overperformed last year. You give Derek Carr a real, maybe the best receiver in football. Let's see what happens. right?
I think the Raiders could be really good next year, man.
If it works out, cool, you bring them both back, and now all of a sudden you have like a team you can keep going with. And if it doesn't work out, cool, you have a way out, and you can trade them both and not take on a bunch of dead cap. I think it's a great
Adams
option.
would be pissed, man, if they traded Carr.
I know, but that's like the way this would work, right? Is if like Carr doesn't have a good year, they're all of a sudden near the top of the draft, and they can just trade Derek Carr, get higher in the draft, and get a quarterback.
Maybe. We'll see. I think the Raiders, we'll see. I do think that has the potential to be an overpay. Again, it's tough based on this contract to know exactly how it's actually going to pan out. Overall, I think Carr is overrated. I don't think Carr is the top 10 quarterback that people always demand that, or people don't always demand
15.
He should be.
15. People like 11, 12, 13.
So many people think that he's underrated that I think he's a bit overrated. I don't think he's anything like super special if he's your franchise quarterback. And yeah, he's been consistently pretty good, but overall, that's all he is. He's not better than Dak. He's not better than Dak.
But he's like Matt Ryan, and that's fine.
Yeah, it is.
And Matt Ryan's gotten a big deal. Bro, if Matt Ryan and Kirk Cousins can get big deals, give Derek Carr a deal. Come on.
I honestly think maybe this is just total slander, but I might almost rather have Ryan and Carr. To me are very like, I'd have to think long and hard about which one I'd rather have. So
I would say like Derek Carr, like if we're like ranking quarterbacks, Derek Carr 11, Matt Ryan 12.
Yeah. Like Carr, my issue with Carr, he's not quite as much of a coward as he used to be, and he's opening it up a little bit more. He used to just be a check down. He's still a little bit quick to check down, and I don't think he quite opens up your offense to the degree that some other guys do. He can read the field he's a little bit questionable there. He doesn't have any athletic upside really. So he's got a decent arm, but he's not going to offer you anything on the ground.
He fell off the cliff athletically after he got hurt in 2016.
I don't think he was ever like the super athletic.
He wasn't like a superstar, but like he was like jumping over people. So
really?
Like he has this one play I remember where like he does like a diving front flip to get a first down.
Well, diving and being an athlete, anybody can dive.
I guess, but like. I don't know. It was a pretty athletic play. Like Matt Ryan would never do that.
I guess maybe. But anyway, Carr, yeah, the initial details, I was like, I don't know. But again, everything he's done for the Raiders and how badly he wants to be there definitely played a small part in this. But
I think so.
I know you want to talk about Baker, so I'll give you the floor to wrap things up here.
Baker Mayfield went on this podcast and has this quote where he says, I absolutely feel disrespect. I was told one thing, and then they did something completely different. Bro, have you like never watched like the NFL before you got to they did the same thing with Jared Goff. Jared Goff didn't throw a tantrum. Sean McVay publicly apologized to Jared Goff. Right? Like you look at the relationship there, the dichotomy is completely different. To the point where I started to look at like the one difference. I'm like, there's really not a significant difference between like how things broke down. I've compared the Browns and the Rams throughout all this year, right? I think the situations are very similar.
Yeah.
And I look at the one difference, Jared Goff got paid.
Yeah.
And I think that, and Baker can't come out and say that. He could never come out and be like, man, I really wish I got my nine-figure contract.
Right.
But in the back of his mind, or maybe in the front of his mind, he's just talking from the back of his mind. That is, I think, the one thing that pisses him off the most. Yeah.
Well, Baker was on track to earn probably hundreds of millions of dollars, dozens of millions of dollars. And he tore his labrum this year, and now he's not making anything, like relatively speaking, not making anything. And that would be frustrating. That would be like, I can't lie.
Really, it would be, but you don't, but like to go on and just like verbiate the way that he does, I don't know.
Well, yeah. And that's the thing is, the rumor is they want an adult in the room at quarterback, and they say they never said that, but Baker's just not really that. All right. And people will credit Baker, and Baker will credit himself as a guy who changed the culture in Cleveland and a great locker room presence. And honestly, I think that gets a little bit overrated. I think like everyone in that locker room probably sided with Odell over Baker. I think like the Browns players probably liked Odell more than they liked Baker. I think Baker.
Do you want the list of guys who I'll tell you the list of guys that changed the culture in Cleveland? Jarvis Landry was number one. All right. Yeah. I will ride with Jarvis to the day I die. I didn't really want him gone, but I was like, the money's not good and he's like not playing his best football. So I understand it. Myles Garrett is another. Everyone loves Myles Garrett. The other guy, the other young guy, Nick Chubb. I would say Joel Bitonio's in that group.
Notice how these are all good players. The culture changed the culture changed in Cleveland because they got some good guys. You know,
well, part of that's Baker like was players, added to a good group players that are also like good, respectable players, right? That's what it was,
right? And Stefanski, right? They got a good coach. They got a coach who was doing a good job, and they limited Baker extremely, and they played a very easy schedule, and that's how they were able to turn their record around. I mean, it's like drafting Baker first overall. Definitely, there have been worse first round picks. He's not the biggest bust of all time or anything, but like if they didn't make those other moves and they didn't add a good infrastructure around him, like we wouldn't be talking about a Baker culture change, you know? So I think that gets a little bit overrated, and everything about Baker got a little bit overrated last year, I think, again. And I get why he's mad at Cleveland. Again, I'd be salty too if I was in place to get $100 million and then I tore my shoulder and then now all of a sudden I'm in place to get none. I get it. I'd be complaining too, really. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't say that he's got no one to blame but himself. But at the end of the day, he's just not that good of a quarterback. He's just not that good. And it makes sense. Yeah.
If he like was going to get that, it wouldn't have come down.
If he really wanted to leave Cleveland, he should have gone on that podcast and be like, I don't know if I didn't listen to him besides the highlights.
I just saw the clip. I saw that one soundbite. I was like, what? Okay,
so maybe we're just talking out of our fucking ass here. But
I was like, I'm not gonna. I'm just
okay. I thought you would.
I didn't go and watch the whole thing. All right, I just saw the bits where I saw Baker just going off on stuff.
If he really wanted to get out of Cleveland, what he should have said is, "Why would you replace me with a rapist?" That's the hot button thing that he should have said. Like, if he really wanted to get out of Cleveland, he should have publicly called out Deshaun Watson and been like, "You're going to replace me with this guy."
You could have played like the bigger man card.
That's the card you should have played, Baker. If you really want to leave, is just totally light up Deshaun Watson, but I get also why maybe you can't do that. I don't know. Maybe you can. Maybe I don't get why you can't do that. But
yeah,
I would have I could have gained a lot of respect for Baker. honestly, if he would have just come out and been
I would have gained a lot of respect for Baker.
And like, man, you're gonna replace me with this dude? You want an adult in the room at quarterback, and you got this dude who has all these accusations and bring his own towels to things, and has deleted all his old Instagram messages right before this lawsuit dropped, and all these questionable things that happened. I don't know. Yeah. So I don't know.
That would have been a much better Twitter video than than what we got. But yeah, no, I think Baker's biggest thing is probably that he's not getting paid. That is probably it. Which again, it's like a fair thing to be mad about, but like, yeah, I don't know. If he had been drafted in the third round, like a Dak Prescott, but I don't know. Even Dak was kind of a little antsy to get his money.
Everyone is. But it's $100 million, man. I'd be antsy to get $100 million too. That's people blame athletes like Debo. Like Debo's an example right now. People are like, oh, he's being childish, deleting all of his Instagram thing. Well, I mean, $100 million is on the line, man.
You'll do whatever.
If you think that this gets that done a little bit faster, you do it. No.
Here's the. Put this in the comments right now. What would you not do for $100 million?
Well, yeah, right. It's loyalty to the team is one thing. Like, again, I think people kind of struggle to realize this is a person who could make like $100 million.
Like what is that? That's like top like 0.5%. Like that's like probably higher.
Top 0.5%. No, that's $100 million. Oh my God, that's 0.00001%. That's the top 1% of the 1%.
It's stupid.
You and me are in the top 1% in terms of it's.
Are we?
Like most people like.
Top
I don't know 1%. If it's not top 1%, but like we're probably like, top 10%. Like
I was about to say top 10%, I might give you, but top 1%.
Yeah,
I know people in the top 1%, man.
You don't need to be making
money.
All that much money in this country to be really high percent. Making $100 million is more than top 0.5, I think. But anyway, we're running really long on time. Matt, we lost him because his phone died. That's why he hasn't chimed in a while. Listeners at home.
But it looks like his file uploaded, so hopefully we won't have to re-record this podcast. But yes, that pretty much wraps things up for us. Appreciate y'all tuning in. We'll be back with more content, on all platforms. We'll wrap up or recap the final of the NBA plans, and then we'll be able to actually talk about the 1 versus 8 seed. But yeah, tons of content coming to all platforms. We'll be back on Monday to talk about that kind of stuff. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all on the flippity flop.